Good Tuesday morning, everybody. Chris here with High Seas Cruising, and welcome to today's video. Today, we have got two locations out there. Well, they want to put a new fee, some new taxes just on cruisers. And as you can imagine, well, the cruise lines, they are not real happy about these new proposed fees. Now, before we get into the two specific locations, I do want to talk a little bit about port fees and taxes and how they work with cruise lines. You see, cruise lines, they plan their cruises years in advance, 2 to 3 years ahead of time. They plan out their itineraries and they estimate the port fees and taxes that we as consumers are going to pay when we book those cruises. Right now, you can book cruises all the way through about the middle of 2026. So if any port fees or taxes are changed now, that affects those cruises. Now, the cruise lines, they're really good at estimating what port fees and taxes are going to be for the future, though sometimes they overestimate just a little bit. If you've ever been on a cruise, gone to every port you were supposed to, but still get a little bit of money back on your sign and sail account that says from port fees and taxes, well, that little amount means that the cruise lines overestimated what they were going to be and they were turning that money to you. That's what they have to do. Now, on the other hand, though, if they underestimate what the port fees and taxes are, and you've already booked and paid for your cruise, well, they can't come back behind you and add new port fees and taxes. The cruise line, well, they have to pay for that out of their own pocket. So what that means is anytime a port suddenly wants to add new fees, increase the fees, well, if the cruise line hasn't already budgeted for those, they're going to have to eat those out of their profit margins. And at the end of the day, cruise lines are businesses and they don't want to take money out of their pocket. And if you look at the number of cruise ships that go to some of these places, these numbers can get really, really high. Now, first up, we have New Zealand. Now, New Zealand, it can sometimes be difficult for cruise ships as it is. They have some very strict environmental rules in New Zealand. And we've seen cruise ships be turned away before because their hulls weren't clean enough. They didn't clean their hulls in a timely manner. They were not allowed to enter the waters there in New Zealand, which results in port cancellations, results in changed itineraries, and most importantly, results in unhappy cruise passengers. Now, the Australia-New Zealand market is already a very expensive market for cruise ships to operate. Now, according to the cruise lines, the profit margins are already thin. So a new proposed tax on cruise passengers from New Zealand definitely not sitting well because it's not just a small one. They're proposing an 88% price increase targeting cruise passengers. And they want this to go into effect December the 1st here of 2024. So a new tax, a new fee that they propose to go into effect less than 5 months from now could amount up to almost $1.2 million or $20,000 more per cruise ship visiting New Zealand for cruises that are already booked, they're already paid for, and the cruise lines would have to eat these costs, which they don't want to do. Now, CLIA, the cruise lines, they are trying to work with the government in New Zealand to see if they can work something out, something to stop these going into effect in just 5 months. Whether that'll happen or not, hey, we're going to have to wait and see what the end result there is, but it could have an effect on cruising. We could see a reduction in the number of times cruise ships are willing to go to New Zealand. We could see cruise ships pull out of the region because if it does come to a point where their profit margins are so thin that they cannot operate there and make a little bit of money, as a business, that means they're going to reduce the amount of operating they do in the area. It's just normal. Now, no cruise line has said they're pulling out. No cruise line says they're making a change. They are currently still working with the government there, but an 88% price increase, that's just not going to go over well. And our second cruise port, well, it's one that's been in the news multiple times recently, and that is Barcelona. Already seen a bunch of problems over in Barcelona. They have protests, water, liquids being thrown on tourists, debris being thrown at tourists. Barcelona already has proposals to reduce the number of cruise ships, to have days when cruise ships can't come in, to require staggered arrival and departure times, all to reduce the tourism there in the city. Now, CLIA has already come out and warned Barcelona that, hey, look, there is the possibility that we could start to see itinerary changes. There are possibilities that cruise lines can avoid coming there altogether. And in response to that, well, the mayor in Barcelona has said, well, what we need to do is increase the tourism tax on anybody who is in the city for less than 12 hours during the day, which of course means cruise passengers. Now, currently, cruise passengers pay £7 in order to come into the city. They did not give the exact amount of what the new fee would be, other than the mayor's intention to make it significantly higher to reduce the number of short-term visitors. So will this make CLIA take a stronger standpoint? Will cruise lines actually avoid Barcelona? Will they reduce the number of visits going to Barcelona between the protests, the proposals for them not to even be there, and a price increase per cruise passenger visiting the city? I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that eventually the bubble's going to pop and Barcelona is going to get their wish and they're going to have less cruise ships there. But Barcelona's not only just messing with cruise ships, they are really after all tourism. They also want to eliminate 10,000 apartment units that are used for short-term rentals, aka Airbnb type locations. They want those done. They want those gone also, which means the situation in Barcelona, it's going to remain turbulent here for a while. This is not going to calm down. I doubt this is the last time we are going to hear anything from Barcelona. I expect to hear more changes, more measures being put into place because they are really determined to drive down that tourism. And it will be interesting to see what Spain's national authorities do, what their national government does, because they've been kind of hesitant to put any type of real restrictive bans on cruise ships because of the amount of tourism dollar that cruising does bring to the country. So we're going to have to see how it plays out over the next couple of months. All right, and that is going to be our video for today. If you've enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you haven't done so yet, do me a favor and hit subscribe. It is free to do so. Helps our channel grow. Let you know anytime we put out a new video. Hope everyone out there is having a really great day. And like always, we will see you out on the high seas.